than that, I think we'll get going. Please welcome Brent Weeks.
Some of you may recall that on my last tour, we had a bit of fun together. That some people have tragically mischaracterized as me playing a cruel trick on you. For those of you who didn't get to experience the joy of that, I read a sneak peek of The Broken Eye, yes, 2 years early. And I chose the part where Kip accidentally blows Liv's head off and then is killed shortly thereafter. Which is, as those of you who have read this book already know, actually does not happen in this book. Whoops. But you did exact vengeance for that little trick that I played. One of the first questions I got was, wow, that was pretty great, Brent. How are you going to top that on your next tour? And I've been fretting about that question for the last 2 years. And now, some authors on book tour don't do a reading at all. They just take questions, or maybe they read a chapter from the book that they just released. But I like to give you something new, something that you couldn't experience elsewhere. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to tell a story together. That's right, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to pick people out of the audience randomly, and you're going to come up front, and you're going to tell that, oh, I can tell who has a fear of public speaking. Come on, you guys. I think if I've shown you anything on my previous tours, it's that you can trust me. No, I won't be calling anyone forward. I won't be embarrassing anyone individually. But we are going to tell a story together. Remember when you were a kid and you read those choose-your-own-adventure novels? Those were awesome. I loved those, so I wrote one myself. Now, I have to warn you that this may be the worst idea I've ever had. But I figured that since I killed the main character in my last book tour, I should give you guys a chance to kill the main character this tour. Now, this is a little challenging, but the way we're going to do this is we're just going to do a little majority vote at each juncture. You either vote for one, and you put up one finger in one, or then you vote for two. And when you die or fail, we will just move on to the Q&A. Portland died. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we get going here. If you guys do the Instagram thing or you do the Twitter thing, you can hashtag any pictures or whatever, Broken Eye Tour, and at the end we'll collect a bunch of them, and then I'll randomly give some people who did that some kind of loot or another. So I'm not sure what that is, what that's going to be. And then also, even though this is horrendous, I just God, I hate myself. Also, at the end, if you can't stay or you just hate waiting in line, I'll try to have a stack of signed books, just signed, not personalized, that you can come and just grab a signed book and go. Now, to get started, in this light, fun little story that I whipped up for you this evening, you were a magic-using assassin called a Wet Boy. Your name is Kyler Stern. You carry a small magical item called a black Kari. Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it even talks to you. Your story here, tonight, begins several weeks after the end of the Night Angel trilogy. A little bit more backstory. Through some amazing magic that you had a small part in, an entirely new city has been created here. And the new High King, your friend Gavin Guile, is placing his capital in this new city. People are moving in, he's granting investiture to create new nobles to help him rule and so forth. But what is clear is that this is not going to be the gritty slum that Scenario was. And this new city isn't going to have much room for men like you and your master, Durzo Blint. The sound barely registers. You've been sleeping outside of Logan's room to guard him and his wife Janine. Or maybe you should start thinking of them as King and Queen Guile. It's good to do this one more service for him. But sleeping on the floor seems like it was easier a few years ago. You open your eyes just as the snake lifts its head, its hood flaring out, not a hand's breadth from your face. What do you do? 1, kill it. Or 2, hold very, very still. 1s. Okay, 2s. Okay, where's my decider? What do you think? I think I said 2. Okay. You lash out with all the speed of your talent, pushing off with your legs hard, even as you try to grab the snake's head. But your hand snaps closed on nothing. You roll over as you slide backward and you pop up to your feet. You look desperately for the snake and see it on the ground, slowly coming apart in smoke. It was an illusion. Something streaks out of the darkness, even as you wield toward the sound of the laughter. Your hand comes up in a flash to block it, and destroys a biscuit. Too bad, Durzo says. That was your dessert. Good to see you still wake up quick, though, kid. You said that you weren't very good with illusions. I lied. You lied? I lied. Durzo agrees. You might have noticed I usually lie about magic. Such a shock when he stops and looks down at your hand disapprovingly. You hadn't even noticed that you'd drawn a blade of pure black Kakari as you woke. I told you before, don't carry that thing around inside you. Why not? It's the devourer, he says, like it's obvious. The longer you keep it inside of you, the more of you it devours. Your personality, your memories, your soul. Look at what an emotionless husk I am. What? He quirks a grin, somewhat spoiling the effect. And when we consider how fast you burn through lives, I figured you could use the early warning. You call this an early warning? I've been using the Kakari for months. Early, at the beginning of the job. A job? Do me a favor, Durzo says. Grab one of these. He opens a small case. There are only 2 items inside with special slots carved for them. One is a pinion feather for some bird of prey that you don't recognize. The other is an ornate silver teaspoon with a zoomorphic knotted design. You made a case for a teaspoon and a feather, you ask? He purses his lips. You take the hint. Which do you choose? The feather is 1, or the teaspoon? 1, the feather. Or 2, the teaspoon? 1, oh. Durzo lifts his eyebrows at your choice. Well, enjoy that. He hands it to you gingerly. This may help or not. It's up to you. The feather's from a swamp harrier owned by one Hescaran, a rich Lodrakari merchant from an old family with legitimate claims to a title. He's come to Elenea to ask your sleeping king in there to name him a baron. Logan is looking for nobles to run this new kingdom we've handed him, and having at least some who are locals will make things look better for him. The teaspoon belongs to, let me guess, a Fayuri who's trying to do the same thing. Ah, you notice the design. Not always hopeless, are you? The Fayuri merchant is one Varsali Kurawan. He most certainly is not legitimate nobility, but he has good fake documents. I'm not sure if Mama K covered the Fayuri and Lodrakari politics in your education, but the groups are not historically friends, and these two men in particular have pretended for a long time to be bitter enemies. In truth, they're plotting a coup together, and soon, within days. There's no proof of it yet, though. Certainly not enough for Logan to further alienate either the Lodrakari or the Fayuri by executing men he will most likely make noblemen tomorrow. You say, I could just tell him to deny their petition for titles. True, and perhaps Logan would listen to you over all of his other advisors, but that will still be seen as a snub. There's no good reason that we can make public to reject their investiture. And if their titles are denied, these men are still both very wealthy, and now they'll have a legitimate grievance with which to recruit others to their cause. Kyler, I have to leave within days, and you can't stay here forever either. I'm simply proposing that we remove an obvious threat that the king himself cannot. Why are you telling me all this, you ask? I mean, I'm in. It's Logan. I'll do anything for him. I've noticed. I've been asked by a certain very forceful woman to refrain from killing anyone before I leave. Mama K, you ask? He looks at you like you're stupid. Like there's any woman, other woman in the world to whom he would listen. Well, why'd she ask you not to kill anyone? She's a duchess now. Me defying the king could be problematic for her. Like you'd get caught, you say. No, it's more that if there's a brilliant assassination, they'll think of me first. Do you, one, protest that you've done a thing or two yourself, thank you very much, or two, keep your mouth shut? 1, 2. Durza says, I can see what you're thinking. But you didn't say it, and for that, I'm going to make this easier for you. You're a lot of things, Kyler, but subtle isn't one of them. Not Wet Boy subtle. Not Night Angel subtle by a long shot. So I'm going to help you with that. On this job, you'll have certain parameters. They're for your own good. First, you can't use the Kakari. He'll never know. The Kakari whispers. Second, it needs to happen tonight. They each have an audience with the king tomorrow. Third, you've got to kill both of them. Before morning, you ask? Fourth, you've picked your weapon. Huh? Oh. Not the... That's right. The dagger. Fifth, you can't sharpen it and ram it through your debtor to kill him. Subtlety, Kyler, subtlety. Wait, why do I have to obey all these rules that are making things harder for me? Because life is your crucible, Kyler. Because if you don't make yourself the perfect warrior, those you love will die. Because I'm asking you to. And because if you don't, this choose your own adventure will spiral out of Brent's control completely. Choice 1, okay, I'll obey your rules. Choice 2, okay, I'll obey your rules. But I think you underestimate Brent's powers. Choice 1. Choice 2. Durza slaps you. Only one person around here can break the fourth wall. Try again in 700 years. He pauses. Kid, thanks for doing this. Come see me afterward. In order to establish my alibi, I'll be up dancing the night away at Lord Watanabe's party in the main hall. You're going to make me miss seeing you dance? You ask? You find the thought of me dancing humorous? He hands you a map of Arseli Kurwan's house on it. Well, with the location of Arseli Kurwan's house on it. You say, why does this just have the one house on it? You already have Hesperon's feather, Durzo says. Why the hell would you need a map to his house? You're not sure you follow, but Durzo's look makes you feel stupid, so you just nod. And then he's gone. You grab your bag and head out onto the balcony, studying the map and recalling all you can about the city. It's a new city, and though you were instrumental in Dorian's magical creation of it, you do not know it well yet. From what you can see, there are 3 possible approaches. So 0 is going to be go in disguise and try to bluff or sneak your way in through the front door. 1, the rooftops, a classic. The buildings around the rich section where your debtor lives are a bit farther apart than you'd like, but it's still very doable. Or 2, the sewers. Ah, the sewers. Nothing like climbing around in toilets. But wait, before you decide, you think there's something you should be remembering. Do I have my dice roller? Okay, he's going to roll a 20-sided dice. And if he rolls from 1 to 10, something will happen, and if he rolls above 11, something better will happen.
20.
Well done, dice roll. You suddenly realize that you are perhaps the most famous person in this city. Doing mind-blowing magic that saves tens of thousands of lives does tend to draw attention. Artists have already made really handsome portraits of you. They're everywhere. A disguise might be pretty hard to pull off. So, would you like to 0, go in disguise, 1, go to the rooftops, or 2, the sewers? 0, go in disguise. Nice. 1, the rooftops. Okay, raise them a little higher. Okay, and 2, the sewers. Oh, sewers. Okay. Okay. Well, that was an important one. Oh boy. Here's the thing about sewers. You'd think they'd be a terrible idea. Who would want to wade around in all that disgusting stuff anyway? But you are smarter than the average assassin. This city is brand new. Everything in it is new. And people have barely moved in. That means that the sewers are going to be clean and empty. It almost hurts being as smart as you are. Standing there on the castle balcony in the evening cool, you pull on your work clothes. It turns out that getting stabbed, crunched by a large monster, and blasted with magic is nearly as bad for your clothing as it is for your body. So your old outfit is gone. Durzo took one look at it and threw it out. In its place, he's given you a new one. The tunic is made of some new material that you've never felt before. And apparently, Durzo thought you were a little smaller than you are because, wow, is it tight. All right, it's stretchy, it moves with you. But please say that the trousers, nope, they're real tight too. You look down. Hey, ladies. Oh man, apparently Durzo really did think you were smaller than you are. Weapons belt. The weapons belt is more like it. Little vials, throwing spikes, folding grapnel, blades, hook sword, and empty back scabbard. Man, it sucks to have lost retribution. But when the silky black cloak settles around your shoulders, you do feel a bit of homecoming, the comfort of coming back to an old friend. But that slit at the cloth for the sword, it feels like when you're a kid and you lost a tooth and you just couldn't stop tonguing the gap. Maybe you should just get a sword, any sword, just to make that irritation go away. Of course, maybe it's all a moot point anyway. You're supposed to kill 2 guys with a feather. You're not sure how that's going to work, but first things first. You climb around the exterior of the castle until you reach a wing where no one lives yet. From there, it's an easy climb in through one of the balcony's doors. not even locked. You find the latrine, never been used. Before you head down, you take one more look at the map and fix the directions in your mind. Dice roller. Okay. The sewers are made of some odd white metal you've never seen before. You have no idea what Dorian did or how, and for the moment, you don't care. All that matters is that the metal is also fairly loud. Without any fluids rushing in and out of the pipes, for which you are eternally grateful, the sound of your steps is unnaturally loud. Good thing you've trained how to walk quietly, even without the Kakari. Within a few minutes, you realize that the whole clean sewer thing was too good to last. Yuck. Apparently a castle can make a lot of crap. And you know the people from whom all this stuff came. Double yuck. That stream trickling down over there could be Durso. He's definitely having more fun than you are. But once you get away from the castle, things air out a little. You make it all the way to what you're sure must be the right neighborhood before you realize that you have no idea how to find the estate from underneath. Your handy map isn't handy enough to have the sewers labeled. You're not lost, you think, but you find yourself stepping into a wide room in the sewers that appears to have been converted into a martial arts training area. Several greasy boxes lay strewn around the room. There are punching bags, training weapons like sais, a bow, nunchaku, wood swords. Not least, there is a woman in an odd yellow outfit with trousers and tunics sewn together, asleep on a pallet in the corner. Moving carefully to avoid waking her, you see her sketchbook. It is adorned with pictures of young turtles made half human and carrying weapons. Teenage mutant wet boy turtles? Clearly a lunatic. You move on, but before you leave, you see that they do have a handy map of the sewers and the city above. Aha, perfect. With no further trouble, you find the building and the path to get there. In minutes, you are inside the estate. You guys got farther than Portland. You're not done yet. Varsili Karawan's estate is, like most buildings in this brand new city, eerily empty. A lone looking glass hangs in a bare room. Some bizarre fairy paintings decorate walls far too big for them. And a dining room has only a small table in it, 2 chairs. The garden has only one kind of plant in it, a veritable carpet of red tulips that were Aline's last gift to you. You look away quickly. You can't think about that now. Nothing else has been planted, though. The fountain is burbling quietly, water issuing from bare piping, with no statues for adornment. Searching the estate goes quickly. The guards have taken over a large number of rooms on the first floor rather than confine themselves to a barracks, but that's probably just because they can get away with it for the time being. Varsili Karawan will likely worry more about discipline after he becomes a lord, and all his belongings arrive in the great caravans that are flowing freely into the city from everywhere in the world. You've been hoping that something brilliant would occur to you as you came, but how do you kill 2 men with a feather? Durs only gave you directions to this estate, so perhaps the men are meeting here tonight. That doesn't solve your bigger problem. You make your way stealthily to Varsili Karawan's spacious apartments. They're the only fully furnished rooms in the estate. Various art from his home tribe. Tribe? The Fairy have tribes, right? It's another detail it might have been nice to know before you headed out on this assignment. Regardless, he's not there. But then you feel a slight breeze from an adjoining room. You pad over quietly and peek around the corner. It's Karawan's study, and there's a door open to a balcony. He's standing out there, looking toward the castle on its hill, dominating the skyline. Do you, 1, throw him off the balcony, now's your chance? Or 2, wait, come up with a plan first. 1, throw him off the balcony, now's your chance. You guys are chicken. I gotta make that more tempting for the next town. First thing Durzo taught you about assassinations was that you need to come up with a plan first. You need to have patience. Besides, like, you aren't going to figure out a dozen ways to kill some chunky merchant. No, waiting is by far the better plan. Instead, you take the time to move to his desk. There are papers all over it. Unfortunately, they all seem to be written in code, but you can tell that whoever wrote them is familiar with writing Lodrakari script. There's a delicacy to the lettering, a swoop to certain serifs, some underscores carefully looped. It's quite beautiful, really, and it's probably treasonous. You're probably looking at the very missive that coordinates the last part of Varsili Kurwan's and Heskeran's coup. This gives you an idea. If Kurwan has a cipher book here to decode the message, you might be able to do this legally. Now that would be a change of pace. You notice that the merchant's coming in and you hide in the next room. He picks up the paper you were studying and looks it over. It's obvious that he's reading it. You swear silently. He's memorized the cipher and knows it so well he could translate it as he reads. That means there's no cipher book. There goes that plan. Then he tosses the page into his little fire, and he waits until it's completely consumed. He's careful. Even worse, you suddenly feel like throwing a small tantrum. What are you going to do? Frame him for a crime he's really going to commit? And then you realize that's exactly what you're going to do. Varsili Kurwan is in his chambers now, getting ready for bed. He lies down. Of course, he could wake up at any time, and you will need some time for this. Do you, 1, kill him and then enact your plan? Or 2, try to do this the non-violent way? 1, kill him and enact your plan. 2, try to do this the non-violent way. Is that really 2? I mean, oh, okay, 2. You get to work, but within minutes you hear a slight sound. Dice roller. You got to beat a 2.
14.
I mean, great, okay. On we go. You go to check on Varsili Kurwan, but he's just rolled over in his bed. It's nothing. You've got this. You know the man that Logan Guile has put in charge of the guards. Commander Gamble is a good man and no fool. You draw up a note written in the simplest code you can possibly imagine, putting little Lodrakari flourishes on several of the numerals and letters. It's not perfect, but it's adequate. Taking care to check on your sleeper, you tuck the letter into the pages of one of the books on the shelf. As you tuck the feather into the crease of one of the chairs, as if it got smushed there by someone sitting on it. You feed a few other papers into the fire, letting the edges of some remain, so it looks like incriminating documents were burned. And then you go home. With your skills, it's a simple matter to evade the guards and patrols. And when you get back to the party, you take Commander Gamble aside and give him an anonymous tip. With your standing in the city and how everyone knows the king trusts you, he heads out with a squad immediately. You go to bed and sleep wonderfully. In the morning, Durzo wakes you with a biscuit chucked at your head. So, he says, you couldn't even do half the job, I see. 1 arrest last night and 1 early this morning, and no kills. Do you expect congratulations? Of course, you say. You look proud of yourself. You're insufferable when you're proud of yourself. Report. You explain how you left the note, allegedly from Heskeran, and how when its code was cracked, it would mention their coup, and command the Fairy to make sure he'd burned all evidence they knew each other. The feather then would stand in direct contradiction to that. But when they arrested the Lodrakari this morning, if they find codes, they'll be different codes than what you used. And they may not find the feather at all. Good codes or bad doesn't matter. Feather either. How's that? If you can't get 2 convictions for treason, you've failed the job. What you've left is incriminating, but it's not proof. And Logan's not going to execute these men on a suspicion. No, you say, Logan won't. But if they find the codes, but if they do find codes, they'll probably find real evidence for the planned coup. Or one or the other of them might start talking. Not good enough. But it doesn't matter. We don't need one conviction, much less two. And why is that? Because Logan was a convict. And Logan's now the king. And even the criminals here adore him. The jail's new and the men will be held with everyone else. When those criminals hear that Varsili Kuruan and Heskeran were plotting to assassinate Logan and might walk, they won't stand for it. Varsili Kuruan and Heskeran are already dead. They just don't know it yet. A smile breaks over Durzo's face. Beautifully done, Kyler. You are a true wet boy. At 20. And with more subtlety than I had at twice your age. If you keep learning like this, we might make a night angel out of you yet. He laughs at your silent protests. And you proved yourself worthy by not using the Kakari when I asked you not to. Come with me, Kyler. We have so much to talk about. Lead. And now I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you have just played Dungeons & Dragons. So for any of you who like to laugh at those geeks who play those games, go ahead and continue to do that, but inside. Okay, and now I'm gonna open it up and for a Q&A, and to get started, since I can tell you guys are pretty shy, I'm going to ask a question. Brent, love your books, you're amazing. Was there a question? No? Okay, now it's your turn. Yes?
Okay, so I noticed in your Reddit anime, you actually just this a little bit, you've been having, there are a lot of readers who don't actually question a whole lot of what they're being told by characters. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you had actually given any thought to addressing that in maybe your next book.
Okay, so he said a lot of readers don't question what the characters say in my novels, and I talked about this on a Reddit AMA. I'll try to encapsulate that briefly. I run into a lot that when readers read a book and it's set in a medieval era, and people talk about the science in that era, and they say, well, you know, there's 4 elements and things seek out their own thing. Like they don't understand gravity or whatever. People understand like, oh, they're just wrong, right? Like it's okay that they can be wrong about science in the world. Like you understand that the character, like we have this level of sophistication when we read about characters explaining science. But when they talk about the magic in their worlds, we think what this person is telling me is how the world actually works. And so when in my books, things happen later that contradict what one character said, people think you just made up a new thing on the spot or you cheated or something. And I'm like, no, like I tried to show beyond the character's words, but in their actions, that character had a conception about magic, but it was wrong, or it was limited, or that magic, like there are underlying rules about magic that always function, but the characters aren't necessarily right about the magic. And that, like, just like they're not right about science, it's the same thing. Like there's underlying laws, but characters can be wrong. And it seems that readers never notice that, or they think, you know, this guy who's got a lot of reasons to lie, like Durzo always lies about magic, and I sort of mentioned that in here. Like Durzo always says he can't do things that he can do, and he always minimizes everything that he's capable of. So then later he surprises you, and you have to, as a reader, decide, is Brent Weeks cheating now and making up new powers for Durzo? And it's like, no, Durzo is this amazing, immortal guy who, if people find out what he is and what he can do, he'll live in a lab somewhere. So he always has to lie because it's the only way to keep himself safe. So he's being perfectly internally consistent, but sometimes readers read that and they go, oh, you're cheating and you're just making up stuff, and it's very frustrating to me. So I'll probably have to insert characters in later books who actually say stuff like, well, but the magic didn't work the way you said it worked, Master Blint. That's true, I lied about it because of this. So, I mean, I might literally have to do it like that. And it's very frustrating. Looking for different levels of sophistication. I mean, sometimes people, they read a book and they look at the cover and then they read the book with that in mind. So I ran into this immediately. Like, people read the Night Angel books, and in the US, the covers came out and they looked a lot like the Assassin's Creed covers. So people thought, well, this is kind of junk fiction and whatever, I want to read an assassination story. So they weren't looking very deep. In France, we got like these beautiful, really like artistic covers that are just gorgeous, and people read it like this is deep, smart fiction. And so I could see in my reviews right away that the reviewers were looking for different things in the two countries, just because, like, I had guys who, and sadly he was like the biggest, at the time, he was like the biggest fantasy blogger, and he's like, oh, well, this is very much a YA novel, and I'm, you know, and you're like, oh man, that's totally, obviously it didn't hurt too much, but yeah, so people come into different things with different expectations. Yeah, it happens. Sorry, that was a very long answer to a short question. Yes, sir.
When will the Choose Your Own Adventure, or will it be available for?
I don't know. I mean, it had Ninja Turtles in it. Come on. Yeah, it's really silly, and I did it for this tour to have something fun to read. I mean, I actually realized, like, you could do it and it would work on your Kindle. Like, you could say go to, and you could like skip through, and it'd be the kind of thing I could do if I put a month or two into it. But I don't know. It's pretty silly. So, and then part of me like started going off and like making this the beginning of another novel, and I'm like explaining the city. I'm like, whoa, man, hold back. We got to get this done in a few days. So, but I had a great time with it. So I don't know if I'll make it or not. You know, maybe someday. So, yes, sir.
Can I ask the question that's kind of spoiler based from the second novel?
Sure.
Has everybody finished the second novel?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is a lot of people. Yes.
Let's go in general then. Do you plot or do you discover as you write?
I do both, I guess, the way I've explained it before is I pick out mountaintops and I head for those places. And so there's a certain structure, there are certain things that have to happen for us to get to the top of that mountain. Like you can go around the back, but you're gonna have to climb no matter what you do. And then I try to take the most interesting route there. But I do that mountain peak kind of thing with each of the characters. Like, okay, we're gonna get there, we can take some roundabouts as we go, or if I get someplace and something's not working, like we might have to double back and edit that out or whatever. But I don't do like a step sheet and put down every little thing that somebody's gonna do. I do try to figure out, how is this all gonna work together? How is it gonna make the ending that I have in my mind? And then even sometimes I'll have like, there's a couple possible places on the top of that mountain we can go. And you know, this character could live or die, and that could pay off this way or this way. There's some trade-offs there. So there's still some decisions I have to make, but like I'm not just meandering around. I mean, I'm not just, you know, hey, let's hop in the minivan and go until the gas runs out, you know, and hey, well, this book was longer because we got lost for a really long time. But I'm just not that guy who's like, okay, this is exactly what happens in Act 1, and then Act 2 is here, and there has to be this kind of turn, and there has to be, that's not how I go. It's more intuitive for me. Yes?
So, everybody's talking about Night Angel, but, and you got me all excited about it, but I do have a question about, in the Lightbringer series, they play the game called Nine Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was first reading about it, I was like, oh my god, this is a lot like magic. And I got really excited. And then I read your part in the back where you say things not story related, and you said that it was loosely based on that. And you said you played magic. And then I was like really curious, and this is completely non-book related, but what colors do you like to play magic? Because I have a theory, but I kind of wanted to know. What
Black. I'm not. I don't like keep up with like Magic every. Oh, they're releasing a new deck. It's been 4 months. You know. Oh, great. It kind of bankrupted me for a little while there. I really like Magic because somebody. I discovered it through a math professor friend of mine, and he kind of opened up the like mathematically what a beautiful game it is. And how well balanced things are, and so just the strategy of things is really smart. And so I like to take it apart and like oh, people made up this deck. Well, how does that actually work? And then most of the time, once you explain it to me and I play it a few times, I'm like, cool, okay, let's go on to something new. You know, like that was like it's a puzzle. With Nine Kings, I play a lot of different strategy games. I mean, I probably more like the board games like Carcassonne and Catan and some of those games. I'm always trying out different new games. So Nine Kings was to begin with. It was just an excuse to get these two characters in a room, because I've got this old man who never leaves his room, and I've got Kip who is terrified of this guy, and so I needed an excuse to put them in a room together. And chess seemed old and boring. Plus, I'm not good at chess. And you know. So some kind of card game was handy, and then using the cards like that they'd be real history, then that seemed cooler, and then that you would experience the cards depending on what magic you could draft, that seemed cooler, and then so it loosely strategically I've come up with some different rules. It's like magic but not like magic. So it's and because people usually ask me this, someday I hope to make that. But not anytime super soon, because I'm working on these books. And it turns out making up a whole game is kind of a big deal. So it's a little harder than you'd think. Sort of like writing a book. Other questions? Yes, sir.
On the note of games, I know a lot of fantasy authors have written and discussed being a DM in D&D and such. I was wondering if you've done much of that yourself.
When I was a kid, I played a tiny little bit. Like I played enough, I think, to create characters a few times. And then there weren't really kids who were interested in it around us. Or my brother was a really bad DM. One or the other. He's sitting in the back of the room. So yeah, you're welcome, bro. Love you. So actually, I never got to play it growing up. It's been something that now, as a professional geek, I've been like, you know, I really wanted to play that, and now people will play with me. So it's like going home to your geek roots. It's been kind of fun. But I've actually never been. No, I guess I've been the DM once or twice, but not a whole lot. Like this is probably closer to DMing than anything I've done. So go ahead, follow-up question. We usually don't allow those, but you know, go ahead.
I was just wondering if you ever do DM, it would be really interesting to see how you react to being able to control the story yourself when you're writing it, and how it is when the players are able to argue against you or influence the story.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a ton of fun. The reason I haven't done it so far, and part of me has wanted to because I'm a perfectionist, and my DMs will do something and I'll be like, no, you should have let him get away with that. You know? No, that was really brilliant. You should have gone that way, you know, that direction. It's just, it's such a time sink. I mean, and it's kind of it's a storytelling time sink. So it's kind of using the same creative juices that you would do. But it's fun too to make up stuff on the fly. I mean, I kind of like that, but I like doing it without the responsibility of prepping for it. You know, I just show up and cause trouble, and that's kind of fun. So, other questions? Yes, from maybe over here. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to say I've never read any of your books, and it was a pleasure to come in and hear what you have to say. Now I really want to read all your books. Now I heard the story that you gave to us today, and you created an entirely new city out of basically nothing. And being a beginning fiction writer, how did you go about just building this new city and making it what it was?
Magic. It's for me, the world building just comes in a lot of stages. I mean, some of the stuff that is in Night Angel, which I drew this from. I mean, I made up when I was 20 years old. I mean, which is now 17 years ago. It was just stuff that I made up. I was like, this seems cool to me. And then, you know, then I put some other things that I thought were cool together. I wanted a really hard world, you know, where things are dark and fast and bad things can happen to good people and nobody's safe, and that seemed cool to me. And so I made this kind of magic that worked with that, and then it just kind of accreted in, you know, in layers. And so when you ask me like, how did I make it to that city, it's like, I don't even remember exactly where that came from. It's just a matter of creating day by day by day, and now of course I get to do it as a job, so it happens a little faster. But you know, making up stuff that's cool, that's different than what you've seen before, I think is what I like to do. It's like, okay, we've done this before, let's do something different that still works together and seems coherent. It's just time and butt in the chair kind of thing. Okay, I'm being signaled. Oh man, you guys are fun. I'd like to talk to you longer. Okay, so I think we have time for like one more question, and then the tills are closing in like 10 minutes, so you'll have to like get your books, and then we'll have an orderly line and the whole deal. But one more question first. You did have your hand up. Go ahead.
All right. So when you're when you start from like not having written anything and then going to the first draft, and then from the first draft to the finished product, like which of those processes is the most time-consuming or losing sleep-wise, like effort-wise, like going from like 0 to the first draft and then refining that?
For me, the worst part of the book is before I really get going on the first draft. I'll often spend 4, 5, 6 months like in the idea phase of like picking out those mountains and doing stuff, and it'll be hard for me. That phase for me is hard because I'll work all day and I look at it at the end and I'm like, maybe not the mountain, you know, or that was dumb. I've seen that in a movie before. I'm like, I'm tired and I worked all day and like that's what I did. I'm gonna kill myself. So, and it's like 6 months of that, of like invisible work. And I don't know, man, it's the creative mind. For me, that's a hard part. Once I get into the story, I love it. I love writing the ending, because usually I've been thinking about that for a long time, and the endings go super fast for me. And then I usually like the editing, because the editing is awesome to me, because you can't edit what isn't already there. Like, editing is just making what you have amazing just by working hard. And anybody can work hard. All you have to do is just work hard. Like, take out the stuff that doesn't work, fix it, and put it back in. Where when there's nothing there, the blank page is way harder than that. So for me, all the other phases are pretty good, especially when I feel good about what I've made. Which the last 2 books I felt pretty good about what I've made. But that first part is just kicks my butt every time, even though I've done this 6, 7 times now. It's really hard. Anyway, you guys have been awesome. Thank you. Thank you.